Hello. Good morning, friends and learners on the interwebs. I'm Rachael Blaske.
And I'm Julie Ahern.
And today's topic is Logistics 201. And Julie and I, veterans of the board game industry, will chat with Allison Chase from Quartermaster Logistics over a good cup of coffee and discuss this topic that we feel is an important part of running a board game company. And all the while discussing your comments and questions in the live chat because you're invited.
And this episode is brought to you by XYZ Game Labs. Art Travels. Get crafty in this competitive order fulfillment and engine building game set in the colorful world of fiber arts. Art Travels is available right now at your friendly local game store, or you can go to shop.xyzgamelabs.com.
Whoo! You're awake, aren't you? I love it. Awesome. Well, I know that you have lots of exciting news for us as well.
News. I do.
Oh, but you know what? I should probably remind all of us that we probably would love it if you could share the stream, and I'm going to let you do it right now. So about that news.
Yeah. So actually, not tons of news, but just one. But it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's important. There is a new convention starting this year, and
we need more.
Well, need it or not, it's happening, friends. D4 Tabletop Creative Conference, which is a 2-day virtual event this year. They plan on being live in future years, celebrating the design, development, discussion, and discovery.
Woo!
See what they did there? Of tabletop games. So they are working in collaboration with Comic-Con International. So think San Diego, like the Comic-Con machine, as it were. And they're looking to bring creators from across the tabletop community together for a 2-day creative conference. The event this year will feature live and recorded special guest speakers covering a range of topics. In addition to their all-star lineup presenters, D4 will include a unique opportunity for game creators to pitch their ideas to a panel of industry experts. So this is one that I thought was actually quite interesting because it's, the Comic-Con group signing off on a specific convention for creatives in the tabletop gaming world. Also, as an aside, I will be one of the speakers. So,
yay!
So that is the big news. And of course, my other secondary is that both of us are on second vaccination. And so we're feeling not awesome, but we're here and we're happy about it. And, get your vaccines, friends, because that's important.
Yep.
So,
felt awful, but totally worth it.
There you go.
Awesome. And you can always click the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner, and you can choose to be notified every time we go live. And you also have the link to our YouTube account in the description box below so that you can view all of our archived shows after streaming.
Yeah. Our guest this week started as the new kid at her first convention ever, Gen Con, a couple of years back, where she was invited to walk around and introduce herself in a real sink or swim moment. And I think instead she built a boat. Started motorboating around because she was amazing. So not only is she incredibly knowledgeable about the shipping process and her product, she was also able to do that elusive thing that so many gamer nerds find challenging, which is walk up and make a friend.
She's so great.
So from then until now, she's been on the receiving end of far too many emails, texts, DMs, Zoom meeting chats from me, and I don't know what I would do without her personally. And I'm really excited she gets to talk with us today. Please welcome Allison Chase.
Good morning.
Allison.
Hello. What an intro. Thank you.
I know. She's so good with that. Well, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do for the industry?
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm Allison. I work at Quartermaster Logistics. We are an end-to-end fulfillment company coordinating fulfillment worldwide. I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. And my current role now is program manager. So I oversee a department of project managers. We work directly with clients to help get their games fulfilled, get them coordinated from wherever they're produced and into the hands of backers all over the world.
Nice. So logistics, it has a lot of moving parts, like so many moving parts. And so many, not just so many moving parts, but so many of them that have to be tailored to the publisher's experience, which is also every time different and unique and specific to that Kickstarter or that company. So what are some things that you recommend publishers do to minimize cause for holdups?
A few things, and you're right. There are a lot of every campaign is different. Every publisher is different. Publishers have from one campaign to the next. I would say the first thing is to talk to your fulfillment provider early, maybe even before you start production, because before launching your campaign, even because it's really important to understand the goals and the timing and expectations early on. Things like box sizes might play into that, or maybe you're thinking about opening, having lots and lots and lots of SKUs and what that does to fulfillment. So it's really important to just start those discussions early.
All the add-ons, so many add-ons. You get an add-on, and you get, but not all the same ones. Pick and pack.
Yes. It's really important to understand exactly how that will impact your fulfillment pricing. I hear a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I know how much it costs to go down to the post office and put that in a box and get it out the door. So I think pricing is a big one that catches a lot of people by surprise because there's so many parts to it. I'd recommend getting your products barcoded. It doesn't have to be a UPC unless you have other requirements for that, like going into retail, but we and several other fulfillment centers use barcodes to do quality checks and make sure that we're picking and packing the right things. So it's really important just for warehouse operation procedures that things are barcoded. And I think a lot of people don't think about that because they think, well, it's just one fulfillment. It's not going to go into a store. We don't need the barcode on there. But talk to your fulfillment provider about that too.
But from your end, so it's one game for them, but on your end, because I've been to your warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
It's
yes.
Your one game is among a sea of other games.
Yes.
So,
I mean, imagine, aisles and aisles and aisles. Our warehouse is huge, and not just your product having to be able to distinguish your product from your other products, right? Maybe you have a deluxe version of a game and you have a standard version of a game. So just telling those two things apart quickly, you're picking things, you want to make sure you grab the right thing, but telling yourself apart from other people's stuff, like you said, that's super important.
And the person working there is not necessarily they're not opening the box or looking at it being like, oh, of course, I followed this Kickstarter. This is amazing. That's
I can see it now.
Yeah. Awesome. So go ahead.
And along with that, also something else that's really important is having an easily identifiable SKU. So when people, there's several numbers that maybe go onto a box and things that we refer to, barcode SKUs, ways to identify the product. SKUs are really important too. It's nice to have a format that's kind of succinct and easy to compare two things to each other. So like ABC 1, 2, 3, 4 and ABC 1, 2, 3, 5. Those are pretty quick and easy to read and kind of acknowledge in your head, different from a whole string of numbers. Like a lot of barcodes can be 12, 14 digits long. So when you're comparing two things, you want a quick reference. I think a lot of people don't think about that either because, again, they think, oh, I'm not going into retail, but it's about the warehouse and handling. And then when we're having conversations about fulfillment or doing backward data, SKUs are really important.
That is a great suggestion in general, because you think, well, I'm only doing this one thing, but what if you decide not? So if you're not numbering, all of our product line is the same series, and then it's 1, 2, or 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. I don't know what happens when we get in the hundreds.
Do you get a lot of people who do one-offs instead of going into retail?
I think a lot of the customers we work with have both, but it's a select few. So maybe they intend to do a retail release of one item, one SKU, one title, and then all of maybe the stretch goals or the add-ons, or there's maybe some Kickstarter exclusives. Not all versions end up going into retail, but a lot do, because a lot of the ones that we work with anyway, people produce a lot of games. Maybe they need to have a minimum production quantity, and they bumped up to a number, and then they have leftovers at the end, and they need to do something with them. So it goes into something somewhere, whether it's distribution through like the fulfillment center or retail. A lot of people need to do something afterwards.
Right, and haven't planned for it. And sometimes, and we're here to try to get them to plan for it before, but if they haven't, you're there to give them suggestions, which is great. Before we move on to the next question, Chris Goodlett had one question for you.
So do we do monthly inventory checks for like in our warehouse? We do regular cycle counts, regular inventory checks on a schedule, but our warehouse is 50,000 square feet, and counting everything once a month would be quite arduous. So we.
That being said, if a publisher asks you for an inventory check,
totally.
I feel like that's, we've done it before. So I know if we say, oh, by the way, we think we're at this number, are we? That's something that can be done.
Yes. And we have an online portal, as do some of the other fulfillment partners we work with, where you can check your inventory in real time. So that's always available to you to be able to see it live.
Right.
If you need it.
Yes. Cool. Well, so shipping has been an increasing challenge, and I know that there's prices going up, and I'm curious if you think that's the new normal, or like talk to us about that.
There's a lot going on there too. We thought that things would kind of taper off after actually around this time, right? April, May, because every year from after the Lunar New Year, after everybody comes back in China, we see we see like pricing changes. Then there's a bottleneck right before Lunar New Year. So if you're producing your game and it's going to be manufactured or be ready to be complete in like late December, early January, and then on into February, it's something you really need to think about, because everybody is rushing to get their things onto boats and out of the country before things shut down. And then when everybody comes back, there's another bottleneck from all the stuff that didn't get to go out before the holiday. So we normally see a big bottleneck right before, a big bottleneck right after, and then things kind of clear out around this time of year. But that didn't happen this year. We're still seeing lots of congestion at the ports. Overall, like the supply chain overall, there is still a lot more demand than there is supply for several reasons. We're seeing, everybody had to kind of shut down last year in response to the pandemic. So production demand was reduced. The shipping lines reduced their capacity because there was less stuff getting onto the boats. And then when everybody started to come back online, the capacity was still kind of reduced, but then like China was ramping up manufacturing. And then across the world, the ports had maybe fewer people at them, right? Because of social distancing.
And I also know that to people who don't traditionally go to China, or suddenly also jumping on going work manufacturing and shipping through China, because their outlets were now shut down. So that also, I think, also added to the congestion from what I've read.
Yeah, there were so many so many different things that kind of came together to create this perfect storm. We're seeing a shortage of imperfect storm.
Yes.
It's not a good thing.
No.
Drivers, there's a driver shortage right now. I've read that it's a generational thing, right? Like that the people, a lot of the people who are doing like long hauls and over the road and things like that, I don't know how to say that, they're like aging out, and there isn't a fresh group of people, young people jumping into that trade. A lot of us are working from home now. I know that we've made a decision to I'm not going back to the office for the foreseeable future, which is fantastic because, I mean, for me, because it lets me kind of move around.
Like, yes.
But to your point,
but
even more so,
at home,
people
right?
are not right. So less people are interested. Well, my grandfather was a truck driver, and so he had a 6th grade education, and it was Great Depression, and had to find a job. And once you get to a certain point, when you don't have past, as time went on, that higher education thing became more of a necessity. So truck driver was what he was doing. And you see less and less of that because there's less instances. We put such a premium on education and then saying, well, now you have to do something that is worthy of that education. And we could go in, that's a totally separate, as a former teacher also, mind you, I could go on, get on a soapbox about talking about the fallacy of all of that. But you're right. So there's nobody, and there's also this, it used to be that it was also something that you could still do and make money and support your family. And that has been less and less the case over time. So
the law has changed too. Like,
right.
People can drive, there's the laws about how long you're allowed to be on the road have changed too. And they're a lot stricter now.
Yeah.
So do you think that do you have any suggestions to mitigate kind of some of the challenges that we've highlighted?
Unfortunately, not really.
Yay!
Last year or earlier this year, we were recommending that people, we were recommending that people maybe wait and see, because people were saying like, wow, this is like way more than I budgeted. And we said, okay, well, we can wait and see. Maybe the capacity will open up like around this time, but that hasn't happened. So,
and there's only so long you can wait.
Yeah. So, to mitigate, I would say like, don't wait, because you will just end up, maybe you will end up paying more in the long run. There doesn't seem to be, we're going to be like this for a while, unfortunately. You can plan ahead, and talk to your.
Marshall just said something. It's true. Wait and see costs money too, because
it does, because
you're now having to pay for the storage of waiting.
Right.
And also, so for example, Tales of Barbaria for us is waiting, it's done manufacturing, and it will be waiting on a dock until there's availability. So it's waiting on a dock at a warehouse is still much more open to the elements, and that's nerve-wracking for us to know that it's until it's picked up and brought to backers. So exciting stuff. So exciting. So on that happy note, when you work with other shipping partners worldwide, what are some questions for publishers to ask when they're looking to ship to other countries, and what information are they, what is the typical, like, they don't ask it that they should be asking?
From other countries, it would be really important to understand what their local laws and requirements are. Anytime I talk to a new company and we're going to consider working together, I want to understand what their expectations are from us as far as paperwork goes. What is how do you want your information formatted? Are there any special forms I need to fill out? Understand what normal lead time is for fulfillment. We all have different levels of capacity and have different expectations there. So especially if you're going to be communicating to backers, you want to understand what a normal turnaround time is.
Yep.
It's not as fast as most people think, because we don't just pull stuff off a container, slap a label, and get it out the door. I would want to know if customer service is included. So does the fulfillment center that your shipping partner that you're working with offer first line direct service to your customers? That can be really important, especially if you're in a totally different country, different time zone. I'm in California right now. So when I'm talking to people in Germany or in the UK, our window is very small. Well, smaller than it was when I was in Florida anyway. So it's important to have, I think it's very valuable to have customer service in that region. They understand the postal system, they're closer in a time zone, so the opportunity to communicate is easier.
But also the method of the delivery of the message, because just culturally, knowing how somebody is complaining and knowing what that tone might mean in different countries can vary. And if something that you might think is being helpful or making a joke or, de-escalating a situation might be considered very offensive to somebody in a different country, or vice versa. So having somebody who can also kind of navigate that is helpful as well. That's
super important. And knowing too how things are set up, how addresses work here in the States, at least in my experience. We have addresses for things that are pretty exacting, but overseas there's maybe go down the path and it's the shutter, put it in the box behind the door, and you have to have that
the green door, not the black one.
Right. Of course. I'd want to know if the shipments are tracked and insured. That's really important to provide. Just from my experience, everybody wants tracking. Everybody wants to be excited about their game showing up and they want to see where it is. So whether they provide that, whether they send it directly to the backers, if they'll send an email out with tracking notification, what their standard packaging is, what kind of void fill they use. There's all different kinds of options available and pros and cons to each, right? So understanding what that is, how the box, if they're going to use single walled box or a double walled box, and what their standard packaging includes. Understanding any regional requirements for doing business. We're all excited and talking about, I don't want to say it. We're all excited talking about VAT and getting registered, and that's just a whole nother.
So excited.
Another topic.
So excited. Yeah.
But it's important to know that, because if you're selling into a country and you haven't done your homework there, and then you go to fulfill and you're working with somebody
about Kickstarter versus retail, is it the same? Is it different? What are the nuances?
Yes.
Yeah, that. I'm going to give you a super hard-hitting question right now. Are you ready for it?
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
In-N-Out Burger. What's a burger, or Five Guys? From Chris.
I think I've tried them all now. We get really excited to have In-N-Out when we're out here. But I think I'm Five Guys from back home.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm a vegan. I don't care about any of this. So you know what? That's great. That's great. You enjoy that, Five Guys.
Awesome. All right. So,
thank you, Chris.
Yes, Chris. So when is it good to have a logistics partner, or just to do it in-house? So is there too big, too small, is there right amount? What do you think?
Typically I would say if it's fewer than 500 domestically, or 1,000 orders internationally, it's probably best to look into doing it yourself, or maybe talking to a fulfillment partner just to kind of get their advice on things. There's definitely a minimum amount of investment as far as time and setup and all of those things go. So it might be cost prohibitive to bring somebody in on a very small campaign. I don't want to say small campaign. On a campaign where there's like fewer than 500 domestic backers, it just
it's a relative thing. You're saying small in the terms
right.
of,
right.
There are Kickstarters that have multiples of thousands of people backing versus, so it makes sense. But once you get to your point, all those other hidden fees that you're not, or I shouldn't say hidden, just ones that you don't know about when you go into it, where you're thinking, oh, fulfillment is me putting it in the post and sending it on its way, when you're not thinking about getting it from the warehouse to the port, to the next port, to the port, to your door, to the warehouse to ship out. That cutting some level of it for paying for the pick and pack, that piece of it might actually be worth it. Or, I know I've seen several smaller Kickstarters shipped directly from China, so that they're, cutting the cost of all the extra freight shipping, and the one shipping is the cost of the shipping directly from another country, but at least it's only one consolidated cost that maybe they're mitigating somewhat on their end, which is still going to be less than all the other stuff. So it depends.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it, I think, than a lot of people realize. When we bring somebody in, when we bring a new client on board, or even a new project with an existing client, because the projects are so different from each other. We talk about, where they're going, what the scope is of their project, right? Where did you sell to? What are those volumes? Does it make sense to, like you said, split it up and go to different regions? Does it make sense to do like one bulk shipment? We have to get SKU information and understand the dimensions and the weight of each individual SKU. Are they barcoded? We have to talk about any kind of setup documentation that goes to different, for each of the different fulfillment centers. Everybody wants their data formatted differently. The backer data, right? And there's the exports from all of the different pledge managers really tee that up and set it up to where it gets very close, but there's still some human intervention that needs to go on there. Formatting it, communicating about schedules ahead of time. Like, we meet with the fulfillment provider. I do meet with all of our fulfillment partners and our own team once a week to go over what the schedule is. And with the changes in the sailing schedules and arrivals and all of that, things are constantly shifting. We do ongoing conversations with the fulfillment centers while we're preparing, while we're doing the scheduling. We talk through any issues that go on.
Yes. And so
there's so many things that happen behind the scenes.
That's what, Matt was also saying that there's so much more to fulfillment than cost. Not enough people evaluate the time involved properly. And then also chiming in was Gregoire, and space, time and space, and you're so jokingly, we did pins as an aside on our Kickstarter, and did some of them, but mostly, we're going to have them for conventions, and I'm having that piece shipped directly to me. And Jeff and Zach were like, don't do it. It's too much. It's going to take up all this space, and I knew there weren't going to be enough backers to make it like, I was like, look, if we get past 100 backers, I will, toss the ball back to QML. But I think that if under that, I don't think will be as big a deal. And I was right. But had it gotten to a certain point, then I knew to hand it back over to you. But since the purpose of it was mostly to have those, have an extra, mostly for conventions, when conventions are in person again one day.
Very soon.
Right. But we had to evaluate that. Time and space.
Yes. Oh, did you see Amy's?
And now it's a Doctor Who episode. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Yes.
Did you see okay, good.
And that was, I was going to, Amy did have a question that was a legitimate one, as opposed to me being silly. she said she hasn't found any logistic partners who use priority mail padded flat rate envelopes. And do you know why this is? Because I bet you do.
I think that a lot of people think that the cost of a flat rate envelope is maybe cheaper than doing the fulfillment directly, like through our pricing. I don't have a great answer for this, but we've talked about it before. Oh, yes, Julie, do you have a great answer?
Rachel might have seen a direct result of using padded envelopes and the delivery of a game and what it looked like.
Okay, well, padded envelopes we've done. The non-padded envelopes, no bueno. But like the padded envelopes, yes, I think those work well for small games frequently.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I could go downstairs and get you a picture of a very recent Kickstarter that got shipped in a padded envelope and the very crushed box.
See, mine being tins, they usually hold up slightly better, but no, absolutely not for a non-padded envelope.
So in my experience, you can find them. You can find the companies that will do it. But I will say that because I've received several and not a one, all of them smaller games that they thought it was small enough, so they keep them at the top of the pile, what have you. And not a one has the box come intact.
Wow.
So I think that most companies who have been doing it for a while refuse because then they have to deal with the some level of the
smash stuff, yeah,
of the replacements or the complaints or the publisher saying, "Oh, we didn't know," after the fact when in fact they should have known or their partner should have told them. So
yeah,
in my experience, that is why.
Yeah, we rarely ship things in padded mailers. Just because of damage. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's fine.
No, it makes sense.
But right. So they are absolutely and not to confuse anybody who's new with media shipping, which is specifically because I know that has also happened once or twice where somebody tried to cut costs by shipping it.
Media mail,
and that is Lord. For a very specific.
Yeah,
that's not for board games, friends.
No, friends, it's not.
The rules are really specific on the USPS website about how they can be used, and even graphic novels don't count as media mail.
Correct.
Really? And so like RPGs and things like that don't count, or do they?
Like a 5e player's handbook that counts. It's mostly text, right? But a graphic novel specifically is not because it's pictures, because it's illustrated. It specifically says like no comment, and you can't have advertisements. A lot of times, like the ones I read have advertisements in them, and you can't have advertisements in media mail.
Wow, interesting.
Right, like in our rule books, always if there's a spare space in the back, we're like, okay, what's our next game coming up? Throw that in there, yay!
Yeah,
marketing. Awesome. So absolutely, that's another piece of it. So. That was an aside. That wasn't part of the question, but also just in case anybody's watching who's new, who thinks, "Oh, I've got this great shortcut." Don't.
Right. No.
Don't do it.
So if we are wanting to start down this path, if the person wants to take the first step, what should they do?
To get started with,
to work hard to get started to work with us.
Well, yeah.
You can reach out to us. We have an email address. It's in info@qmlogistics.com. It's great to know. Yes, have your dimensions ready. Yes, and understand the timing of things and just start a conversation. We're here and happy to help and kind of talk through the beginning steps with you. Matt, who is here in chat, is our sales manager, and he is
also
usually
quite knowledgeable.
Yes, he's the first person that a lot of people talk to. So by the time we start talking to them, he's given them a whole bunch of information and kind of talked and coached them through some things. So he's very knowledgeable about all sides of the business.
So you want to reach out to, like you said, we have the email for it as well, or your emails, and you can
or me
direct them.
Email me and I'll get you to the right place. Yeah, I'm always happy to help. I love talking to people. It's my favorite part of this job, getting to do this.
Yeah.
And that way you can direct them to the right sales rep or the right project manager to help them organize their project, which I will say is also amazing, because one of the things, so you're talking about all the hidden things that people don't think of. I have a set meeting time with my project manager, Chris, and I still get to talk to you or message Matt or anybody and anybody will respond to me, which is great, even though they're probably, I'm sure you're like, why aren't you talking to Chris? Which normally I do. Normally I do. Right. But, and even that, I have a scheduled time to meet so that we have an ongoing, so there's no surprises when I get a project, because I could be like, I might just be like, oh yeah. And then Barrett's, and he'll be like, wait, when's that happening? I'll be like, right, I should be letting you in on that information. We're starting that Kickstarter. So that is amazing. And that is also a part of working with a logistics partner, a service that you don't think about when you're just trying to do it by yourself, that you could actually have somebody with an ongoing, a working knowledge that you can meet with on a regular basis to keep you thinking about the things that you might forget about. So
that's awesome. Oh, and Amy has a great question too. Does Quartermaster work with retailers?
We ship anywhere that we ship anywhere that you need us to. We do have several publishers, like most of our publishers. There's retailer pledges in the Kickstarter, or we do ongoing orders where we're sending shipments direct to retailers. We know like receiving requirements and the right questions to ask when we're doing business to business shipments. So
perfect.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so
yes, would you like to tell us about your week, Julie?
Sure. We had 2 really exciting things happen this week. 1, we have a new hire. Yay! Dan is going to be doing play testing for us, and he is also working with Longpack. So he has 2 jobs, which are pretty hilarious. But also super helpful when he's play testing, that I'm sure he can tell me when we are doing feature creep, like our scope of our project is getting too big, or he can let us know. So that can be part of his playtesting, which is exciting. Yeah. But mostly we're doing a couple really big projects down the road that we need a lot of work on, and he will be working on them to make sure that they are balanced and fun, and I'm super excited to have him on board. And then the other one, which I kind of posted earlier and we kind of talked about briefly, is that it's like winning the lottery, friends. We got our VAT number for the UK, and I've had so many people who have messaged me since then being like, how did you do it? What did you friends, find an expert. Find somebody who's working on UK law, an accountant, a firm, who can basically hand you the mountain of paperwork and answer your questions when you look at it and go, what does this question mean? I don't know what this question means. And I'm not joking. That is what I did. I'm not exaggerating.
Yes.
That is the point I was at. And help you answer them, or at least help maybe reframe the question so that maybe it makes more sense to you. And you fill out paperwork, and then you wait some more, and you fill out more paperwork, and then you wait some more. And eventually they say, okay, you did enough. Here's a VAT number. And there's no set process for it. There's very little rhyme or reason that I can tell. We've been through the process, and I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form. I don't know how we got it before other people got it. I did not pay anybody under the table. So all I can tell you is my best advice is don't ask me. Hire somebody, and I'm happy to share who we use. And I'm sure that QML, if you reach out to them, has also some suggestions of companies, firms that other publishers have used. Get somebody who knows more than me.
Julie's underground
is all I have
UK
to
network.
say, because I literally felt like I won the lottery. There was it was that level of luck
Nice
involved in getting it.
Oh my gosh!
But I feel really good about it, which is weird since it means I just have to pay a bunch of money to sell stuff. But yay, it happened.
Awesome. Well, this week,
you, Rachel, what's happening with you?
Yeah. So I'm still doing some fun stuff I'm having a blast, honestly, doing a brand build out for my friend. And this week I did a flat lay photo shoot, which was really, really fun. And I learned a lot about photography, and I'm just having a blast showing off their products and the things that they go into their branding, obviously, and I'm getting several other clients doing that, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm just having a blast. So all right,
next week
distribution 101. There's a lot of stuff, guys.
So logistics, check.
Yes,
we've got it shipped. Now where's it going? Distribution.
All right.
Yeah, that's next.
Awesome. All right. Let me see here. Okay, cool.
Thank you so much, Allison, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is super fun.
Yay.
I've enjoyed watching.
We've appreciated we've appreciated your expertise this week. And everybody else, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This awesome session was brought to you by Arcane Wonders. So once you're done here, go see all the cool things they're doing.
Awesome. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest, and links are all in the description box below.
Enjoy your Friday, everyone. And remember, next week, you're invited.